Welcome to the Commercial Real Estate Investing from A to Z podcast. I'm your host, Steph Boldrini. This podcast is for everyone who wants to learn about commercial property investing and join our real estate family. We get the best people in the industry to give you straightforward and practical advice that you can actually use in your investing. And in today's episode, we are answering an actual question that came in from one of our listeners yesterday. And then I asked him if he wanted to have a conversation and make it a podcast episode. And he said, yes, we're going to just do some calculations on the go. It's a live, real conversation. First time we're talking. And we're going to go over some numbers for a property that he has found and see what makes sense, what kinds of things he should be thinking about. And hopefully this is helpful to everybody. Here we go. Thank you so much for joining us today. We got a question from you last night, and I thought it would be great to share this with everybody because you're definitely not the only one going through this. But first, why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you again, Stephanie, for having me. Your podcast has been great. I've been listening to you to and from work and try to catch an episode while I'm at work. So I'm in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex area in Texas, very rapidly growing, kind of in the more suburbs than anything now, since there aren't really many opportunities within the Metroplex, kind of rare to come by. But a little bit about myself, I'm a nurse practitioner. I work full-time. Looking to get into commercial real estate investing, specifically triple net leases, since it's a little bit more passive opportunity and don't have to worry about, of course, as they say, termites, toilets, and taxes. So kind of helps me out in that sense. And so I've been just kind of doing a little bit of research. I came across a good opportunity, potential good opportunity, through one of the brokers I've been working with. It's in the Metroplex area and it's a very well-regarded corporate tenant. But unfortunately, the cap rate is between 4.5% to 5%. This will be my very first investment. And so, I'm looking to certainly grow my portfolio. And this is literally a true triple net where everything's kind of taken care of. And so I feel like it's great in a sense for me to learn from, not get too overwhelmed, just kind of initially starting off. But my hesitancy with this is, since the return is a little bit lower, just kind of concerned about, what the interest rate I would get from the banks. If it just covers the cap rate, I'd be breaking it even. I mean, I have potentially to kind of grow. So that's why I want to kind of reach out to you, Stephanie, to see if you have any guidance and, what you would recommend for someone in my position who's just novice and strictly coming in, with a foot in the door.
I can totally understand how you are torn because from what I understand, you're very busy with work and family. So there isn't a ton of time to manage properties and deal with leases and all of that. But at the same time, the cap rate is pretty low. So I'm going to ask you a few questions. And if you don't know the answer, that's totally fine. We'll just go ask the broker at some point and take it from there. So are you looking at putting 20% down or more? What is the down payment looking like right now?
Yes, it'll be at least 20%. The price right now is just a little bit over $900K is what it's listed as. The lease doesn't expire for another 7 to 8 years, but then of course there are 3 5-year option renewals after that lease is up in about 7 8 years.
And how long are these each option? 5-year options?
Correct. Each are 5 years.
Okay. So you have potentially another 15 years on top of the 8 years.
Correct.
Are there yearly rent increases or is the rent increasing every 5 years?
Yeah, so I'm looking at the rent roll here. So the lease commencement was in August of 2009, 1 through 5, no increase. But then after that, they've had a 6% increase. And then after that, it's going to be 8% increase every time there's renewal.
So about 1.5% a year increase, give
Correct.
and take. I'm not even calculating this. Okay, when does that 8% kick in? Which year?
That 8% doesn't kick in until after the 7 to 8 years is up.
Okay, so right now you're going to have that 5% cap for the next 7 years.
Correct.
And then at that point, they can either leave or renew at an 8% increase.
Correct.
And this is the one that is a true triple net lease. You're not taking care of anything.
Correct. Nothing.
And
it's mailbox money, as they call it.
well, if there is any money left.
Exactly, right? That's a good point. Exactly. If there's any money left.
So one of the super critical things to take a look at in the lease is, well, I don't know about Texas, but in California, let's say the taxes can be very low if they have owned the property for X number of years. And then once you purchase it at this new price, the taxes will go up significantly. I don't know how it is in Texas, but I would definitely make sure that in the lease, if it's the case for Texas, they are okay with any new tax increase regardless. A lot of times these major tenants, they will negotiate a maximum tax increase of X%. So that's something that is your number one priority to check there.
Can you kind of clarify a little bit more in terms of, what they are trying to get max out of for the tax?
Sure. So for triple net leases, the tenants are paying for the taxes themselves. And a lot of these educated, large triple A rating tenants, they know how to negotiate their lease. They use their own lease for the most part. And then you guys negotiate from there. And so let's just give a very rough example. Let's say someone owns a property here for 20 years. They are only paying $10,000 in taxes every year. And then 20 years later, someone wants to sell the property and the new tax based on the new price is going to be $50,000. So we went from $10,000 to $50,000 while we still have that tenant there. So now that tenant very likely has negotiated that his triple net responsibilities for the tax cannot go up by X% per year. So you will not be able to quadruple his taxes and recover all of that $40,000 tax that you are going to be incurring. Again, this differs from state to state. Some states, it doesn't matter what your purchase price is. The taxes are still the same. Other states, like California, the taxes do go up based on the sales price.
Okay, right.
Make sense?
Yes, makes sense. Kind of essentially very similar to just a residential home, right?
Right. Tenants like that will very likely negotiate a maximum increase upon a sale. And so you might not be able to recoup that additional, in this example, $40,000 in taxes.
Okay, that makes sense.
So now let's do some calculations. If you're going to get some money back, typically a commercial loan is 30%, depending on which bank. We're going to calculate maybe at a 30% down. Does that work?
Sure. So you're roughly kind of looking at around $275.
So your loan amount will be, let's say, $630 at a $900,000 purchase price, let's say. And typically these loans are 20 years, let's say 4.25%. Your payment yearly is going to be, with principal, almost $47,000. What are you getting for the leases?
Yeah, then I'm in a hole for $7,000. Yeah.
But that's a 20-year loan, fully amortized. So if we do interest only, if somehow you can find an interest only lender, you would be at $28,350.
Yeah, that's worthwhile. Currently, before the next 8% is about $40,500, kind of the annual rent.
Okay, so you'll be making about $11,000 if the tax issue is smooth for you there. So now, that's $10,000 divided by the money that you're putting down. Did you say 275 at 30%? So you're making a 3.6 return on your money. So 8 years from now, if they do renew and you keep at that same cap rate, obviously your property price is going to go up. In 8 years, you will be netting $15,390 per year. So in 8 years, you will be having a 5.5% return on your money, which so far sounds like the stock market is going to do a lot better for you.
Correct. It just doesn't make sense. I don't think the returns are that great to kind of put in just to kind of build a portfolio. I don't know. That's my take on it. But of course, you're kind of more of an expert to, weigh in on this.
Well, I'm not giving any financial advice or anything like that.
Of course. Of course. No, I'm not obviously going to hold you to it. But, just from the numbers, of course, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. So in 8 years, based on the renewal and a 5% cap, your value would be increased by about $50,000, more or less. I don't know the exact purchase price. If I were you, I would probably look in these crowdfunding sites where you can invest in other people's deals. So you're going to be 100% passive, and they do really good due diligence on these operators. I know CrowdStreet does. I met them before. The only downside is that, from what I understand, most of them do end up selling the property after 5 years. Correct. I would want to look for one that wouldn't sell the property, because that's the beauty of real estate, the value increase and keeping that, infinite cash flow forever, or partnering up with somebody that is an operator. There are so many people out there that have access to these deals and that they can operate these properties, and they just need the funds. So these are a couple of options that I would look into. I would probably look for a partner who has the experience and needs the money, someone that has been doing this at least 5 years. People that have been doing this for longer usually have money flowing to them. Maybe a commercial broker that has been in the industry for about 5 years or so, that has access to these deals, and they can make a first offer without a property going in the market, and they can operate it, find a good tenant, negotiate all of that.
Absolutely. That makes sense. Some of these syndication deals that, let's say if the hold is, just 5 years, I know you can also use the 1031 exchange to kind of get into another property, correct? From my understanding. Yes. So you can kind of build and have a snowball effect from that standpoint, and rather than just, having to do the day-to-day logistics and operations, of course. I think I've used other different calculators before. What were you using? What are you using currently? Is it through the Bigger Pockets, or?
I was just using a normal calculator on my laptop.
Oh, no. I thought if you had some sort of formulation that you're just kind of plugging in the numbers just arbitrarily.
It's just the standard calculation here.
Okay. Yeah, it's great in a sense. There's no responsibility, but again, there's really not a whole lot of opportunity to kind of go or, get that return in that long haul.
And, another thing I would consider is purchasing, let's say, a strip center that has a couple of vacancies. The beauty of life is that you can delegate everything. So get a VA, virtual assistant, to find the best broker in town, hire them. If they cost more, I don't care, because they will actually find good tenants for you, and have them lease those 2 spaces that are vacant while you still have money to pay for your mortgage because of the income coming from the other, let's say, 3-5 tenants on the strip center. So because you're busy, you just want to hire the best in your area to take care of the rest. And in that case, the numbers should make sense. You might be a little breaking even in the beginning, but after that, when you get the 2 tenants in, the value of the property automatically goes up by getting these tenants in, significantly more than this $50,000. That's another idea when you're super busy and you want to keep the property for yourself and have full control.
And who do you recommend? I think there's virtual, you said?
I hire a bunch of virtual assistants on Upwork.com. And then if I don't have time to even research who is a good broker, and I tell them to find who's the best broker in town, and then give me a list of people and all of that. You just look for them based on 5-star rating virtual assistants, and you can find very good ones over there.
We have kind of capital in a sense, a certain amount, just trying to allocate that, and of course value my time a lot more, because sometimes it's very inconsistent in terms of my availability at work, and then of course spending time with the family and everything. So trying to take everything into consideration. I'm sure you've had a lot of folks that kind of are in the same boat, so I do appreciate that very much.
No,
Um,
absolutely. I think
yeah,
that's what I would lean towards if I were you, to find
correct.
a little bit vacant property and invest on my own, and then
Okay,
just hire the best people to get tenants in, and also get a really good lease attorney to negotiate the lease with you.
okay, okay.
There are so many things that we don't know, especially coming in, that are very, very important in those leases.
Correct. Are there attorneys that you've utilized or recommend to new beginners?
You would have to look in your own states because it
Okay.
varies. Just start going to events or talking to people, joining Facebook groups that focus in real estate in that area, and you can ask them as well. And you'll start hearing the same name after a while. But
Right,
in the beginning, you have to do a little bit of legwork or have your virtual assistant do that for you.
right.
But
Yeah.
Dallas is a beautiful city. I'm sure is going to keep going up and up and up. Just don't California, Texas, please. But you're doing the right thing. First thing you want to do, it sounds like it's these loans and mortgage calculations
Yes.
to see if there is any money left at the end, depending on how much you're going to put down, and
Right.
also calculate your return on the money that you're putting down.
Thank you so much again, Stephanie, for answering my questions and having me on this.
Oh, of course. Thank you for joining. Super last minute. We're going to release this tomorrow because we love fresh content. And thank you. If anyone else has any questions, obviously, feel free to reach out and we can always answer them together in this podcast. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our super short and straightforward newsletter at montecarlorei.com. And I will see you next time.